So often we hear from viewers who enjoy watching the show, but they tell us that they're in a temporary location and they don't have a garden right now. Well, we've got a solution for you. Here we have another garden that we've made out of a pallet, and this is just one pallet that you'll need. But this is really a great solution if you miss having a cutting garden for your herbs, or perhaps you live in an apartment. This is really suitable for any location, and it's a vertical pallet garden. So we're going to walk you through the next few steps on how to build one of these. It's really simple and anybody can do it. What you're going to need to do is acquire a pallet. You're also going to need some landscape fabric. You'll also need a couple of 2-inch or 2.5-inch bolts with the washers and the nuts as well, and then a sawzall to cut this. You'll eventually need potting soil and plants to, of course, finish out the garden. So what we're going to do is take this pallet and actually cut the top 2 boards off of it. These are going to become our legs on either side of the pallet. We'll then remove the larger, wider board on the back side, and this will help to fill the void on the back side of the pallet where typically a pallet lift or a pallet jack will go in, where the tines of the fork will go in. We want to put a board in there to reinforce the landscape fabric to kind of help with the weight of the potting soil so that it doesn't push out. The next thing that we're going to do is take these 2 boards that we've removed from the pallet and attach them to make our legs. In order to do this, you're going to lay the pallet down and determine how long these legs need to be. And you want them to be the same height as the new cut pallet. You're going to want to clamp your leg to the side of the pallet just to help secure it, and then measure about 2 inches down and to the center of that leg. That's where you're going to want to drill a hole through both the leg and also the outside of the pallet. So once you've got your hole drilled through the leg and also the outside of the pallet, you're going to take your bolt and push that through, and then you're going to take your washer and your wing nut and secure that on the inside of the pallet. You don't want to tighten the wing nuts down all the way because these actually will serve as hinges for our legs. To ensure that your leg doesn't hit the pallet, you're going to want to cut any overhanging boards that might still be remaining on the pallet. For the next phase, having a couple of sawhorses is handy. As we put this pallet up on it, it will help save our back so we're not having to bend over. At this point, we're going to take the landscape fabric and begin stapling it to the bottom front side of the pallet. We'll then flip the pallet over and continue stapling on each board as we work our way to the top. This will ensure that we're putting enough landscape fabric on the board as we go, filling in the depressions between each board. You can't overdo the stapling because this just reinforces it, because we're going to be supporting a lot of weight here. After you've gotten all the staples in and you've worked your way to the top of the pallet, you'll then come back to the bottom edges and gift wrap those corners. Now, where we've attached our legs to the pallet, it might be a little tricky stapling around that, and you're going to just basically cut off any extra landscape fabric so that your leg can kind of hinge back and forth easily. At the top, you're going to want to wrap that landscape fabric over into the pallet and staple it on the inside, and again, that'll just help reinforce the weight that it's going to be holding. We now have our garden built, so at this point we just need to fill it with soil and go ahead and wet that soil so that it stays nice and compact as we're trying to stuff it in these holes. When you're selecting plants for your pallet garden, you want to keep in mind that there's not a lot of root space for these plants. So think about which plants might be more drought tolerant. Also, this isn't a very big garden, so it might not be the ideal location for a rose bush, let's say. Here we've selected some herbs, and a lot of your herbs do well in these conditions. We've also put some moss roses and a few ornamental peppers just to add a little color. What we're first going to do is plant it as it's laying flat, and this will allow those plants to really root in. We're going to leave them for about a week to get established before we lift it up vertically. After about a week, we know that our plants have established their root systems and they're not going to fall out. So at this point, we can lift it up vertically and we'll plant the top of our vertical pallet garden. You're going to want to regularly check the moisture in this garden because it can dry out fairly quickly. The other thing is throughout the season, continue to side dress it with a little fertilizer, and that'll just keep these plants looking their best. Now, I've seen a lot of vertical pallet gardens, and there's a lot of different ways to build them. This is just one example. I liked having legs on it because a lot of times you don't want to put something up against your house where there might be moisture. In this time, I've actually come up with some other modifications. You could put wheels on this and a handle and take it on the go with you.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.